Hi there, this is Alan, and I am currently in Riverside, Iowa.
And we were talking about the Shatner thing in Riverside.
Have you guys done this type of stuff before?
Yeah, with friends. Chekov chocolate and the Romulan raspberry and the Walter vanilla, and we did all that.
You answer first.
Well, as a matter of fact, there is one. There absolutely is one. And you might be shocked. They were going to do a two-night movie of the week called Helter Skelter. This was back in the 70s. It was about Charlie Manson. And if you remember Charlie Manson, he ended up, bludgeoned Sharon Tate and killed and murdered several people. Well, they couldn't find anybody. They couldn't find anybody to take Charlie Manson. I had an agent who brought me in. I knew the director. I had submitted a screenplay that he was interested in doing, and he didn't even think of me as an actor. He thought of me. This was after Star Trek. Oh, gee, that doesn't sound so good. He turned me away twice. But several people came to my defense and said, you should at least read him. So I came back and he says, okay, take this monologue and don't imitate the voice, don't sound like him, and don't memorize it. Just take it and look it over and come back. Well, there was a documentary on Manson and his family that was being screened around town, and I went to a drive-in and I hooked up a tape recorder and I taped his voice, from start to finish. And I memorized, I did exactly what the guy coming out of it. And I memorized the dialogue. And I came into the office and I said, can I take a minute to get control? And he said, sure. And he started writing. And then while he was writing, I started talking as Charlie Manson, doing the dialogue. And it was the most extraordinary take because he was writing and then he stopped writing. And then he very slowly looked up at me. And he was absolutely engaged, totally engaged. And he said, I got it. This is Charlie Manson. This is Charlie Manson. And I went out of there thinking, hey, it's in the bag. Well, there was a director in New York named Elia Kazan on the waterfront, Sweetheart and Desire, et cetera, who had a lot of weight on this with considerable reason. Brilliant director. And he had an actor named Steve Railsback, who he thought was very good. And when they couldn't find anybody but me on the West Coast, they went to the East Coast, and Kazan suggested Railsback. Now, I have to add very quickly, Railsback was brilliant. So that was good. I mean, it was good for me. It was good. It was bad. I was really good. But that was the part that got away. I think, you think that if you do something like that, she's so much acknowledgement and recognition and approbation for the talent involved. Never mind the character was, distinct character. That it does take your career in a certain direction. And I was floundering at the time. I didn't have any. So yes, if that had happened, if they hadn't gone to Mr. Kazan, I had gotten that part. I said, who knows?
Well, I understand. This is the first time I'm hearing that story, and I really understand, how you must have felt. I would love to see you play Charlie.
That might be a compliment.
That's not the way I yelled at Nichelle.
That's what I said. I just saw it.
Okay. We're tickled to death to have everyone here. This is wonderful. Walter has another Iowa connection. You went to Grinnell College, didn't you, Walter?
I did. I went to Grinnell College. I was recently back last do you know when it was? No. It was sometime last year. I went back and to commemorate and to celebrate the building, the new science building on campus, which is incredibly ironic. And I'll tell you very quickly why it's ironic. they called me a storyteller, but actually I was the host. Everybody would understand what I did as host for this big 800 student celebration that we had on campus. The reason why it's ironic is because I went to Grinnell to study pre-med and discovered that I really sucked. And once I learned that I was never going to be a C student in organic chemistry, I switched majors when I switched schools. But it was fun to be back, because I hadn't been in 51 years. Really kind of fun, and so much triumphant, because I went there I left with my, tail between my legs, and I came back, to this kind of a celebration, this kind of a reaction. So it was fun.
If you want to address a question to a specific actor or actress, please do so. Otherwise, it's open mic for our honored guests. Yes, sir. Now your question.
I'm willing to hear from anyone. We've established that Star Trek was groundbreaking for many reasons, important in society. But I'm particularly interested in any reactions the three of you might have to something that we just saw in the recent prequel that never, in my memory, materialized in any of the original set or anything since. And that is the relationship that was suggested between Uhura and Mr. Spock. Would you care to comment?
Was that to me?
I think J.J. Abrams did that just to shake it up a little bit. I mean, I don't think it was organically evolving before it. I think it was, hey, this would be something that wouldn't be ready for. So, I mean, this is my guess. I don't have any insider information. That's what I think. Because it is a shock, and I don't think it feels like it's something that we would expect. I got a short Pearl Bailey story. Mike Warren, basketball player at UCLA, did a movie with Pearl Bailey and Red Foxx called Norman, Is That You?
Yes.
And so Mike Warren told me the story. Red Foxx and Pearl Bailey were always fighting.
Yes.
Something like you admit. And Pearl was going through a very religious period at the time, and was finding people that used the curse word. Everybody had to pay a nickel or a dollar every time they used the curse word. And it really got under.
This is true. She did that on this.
And so she started getting under their nerves. Now I got to tell you in advance, so I don't offend anybody. Think of the four-letter word that starts with F. Okay. Okay. So Pearl Bailey comes on the set one day, and Foxx is standing there, and he announces, don't nobody, here comes Pearl, don't nobody S-A-Y.
And if you remember Red Foxx, before he was on television, he was the most foul-mouthed comedian. But he was so funny, you would go to see him, and even when you were holding your ears like this, you would laugh your head off and feel guilty. But this was before he was legitimate. And he had records and records, people had his records, underground records of his. So he was hysterically funny, but foul as they can.